I'm going to read a couple of poems which will be included in my next collection from Two Rivers Press, which is going to be called Sicilian Elephants. Briefly, it's quite a wide-ranging collection of poems, but there is a common theme which tends to hold it all together. It's the idea of home and the way we try to define a space which we can call home, and the way our attempt to do this sometimes impinges upon nature, and the way that nature then impinges upon what we consider to be our world. I'm going to read two poems that are both inspired by the work of the great Catalan architect Antoni Gaudi. The first poem is called Architecture, and in this poem it looks at the way that Gaudi was in many ways inspired by nature in his attempts to create buildings and to create homes for people to live in. So this poem is called Architecture. Whatever he knew he had learned from nature, how even things that seem at first fragile derive strength from structure. An insect's wing or a leaf, its membrane stretched across a framework of ribs and veins. The simplest grasses, you'd barely notice, assume their burdens like trees. A small shell's convolution implies a flight of stairs. You can roll out a roof like waves. The world's a laboratory of stresses and strains. Unwilling to trust lines on paper, when he could reconstruct what's already there, he measured loops of chain which, inverted, revealed perfect arches, or balanced tiny bags of shot, like vaulted tons of stone. I'm going to read another poem, again inspired by Gaudi. It's called Casa Batlló, which is one of Gaudi's more famous buildings in Barcelona, and it was designed and built in the 19th century at a point when the city of Barcelona was being expanded, and the architects involved in this project had a great vision of creating a kind of urban village or series of village areas with lots of green spaces, parks, places where people could walk. But unfortunately, this vision became subverted when the builders actually got involved, because obviously the more buildings they could squeeze in, the more money they were going to make. So anyway, this is Casa Batlló. From across the crowded passage, your eye is drawn to the shimmer of its otherworldly facade. Its bits and bobs of broken tiles washed by tides of light. Its carnivalesque balconies and freewheeling contours are like the feckless dreams of those who have no need to prosper by hard graft or deals. Incongruous then, the way it rises from this city's remorseless grid, whose well-intentioned plan for quiet parks and walkways was block by block subverted, its breathing spaces squeezed for rent. Constricted too, the cautious lives of those who swept from room to room in that luminous house of bones, where no expense was stinted, on iron, glass, wood and stone, shaped to what the mind invented. I also did a fair amount of travelling, but again, you can write about some places, but you can't write about other places. And I think there has to be some kind of deep connection between you and a place you visit for you to write any poems that are of any substance. And I don't mean just write the sort of standard kind of tourist poems, poems that have some deeper significance for you. As an example, I'd say the island of Malta. I visited Malta twice, purely for a holiday, but I discovered things there that resonated deeply with me. First of all, Malta just seemed so like Ireland as I remembered it in the 1960s, an intensely Catholic country, lots of wayside shrines to the Virgin Mary, that kind of thing. But also coloured by the fact that one of my daughters converted to Islam when she was a teenager, and I've actually got 4 Muslim grandchildren. So if Malta didn't exist, it's the kind of place that I almost might have wanted to invent, because it's a place where they speak a dialect of Arabic, and yet it's an intensely Catholic country. It's the only place where you can go into a Catholic church and pray to Allah, which takes a little bit of getting used to. So yeah, place is one of those things that does always inspire you when you're writing poems.